everybody, it is the Lawn Gnome, and welcome back to another episode of DCU Update. If you are new to my channel, let me just say welcome. It is a pleasure to have you. And if you are returning, I'm really wondering how you're going to feel after this episode, because we are going to be talking about a new installment to the DC original movie library, because I seriously believe at this point that the DC universe is officially done and we are not going to be receiving any more films. But I'm not necessarily sure about the original movie library. And we get a very interesting and very bold one this time around. We get an animated version of one of the most iconic comic books in all of DC's history, and that, of course, is Watchmen, which, of course, was created by Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons. And this is Watchmen Chapter 1. So, I gotta say there's a lot to unpack in regards to this brand new animated version of this very well-known and very popular comic book from 1986. I mean, it was a game changer, the one that broke so many barriers, the one that really gave the mainstream a look at the concept of the deconstruction of the superhero. Even though there were other small stories that were out there, ironically, most of them written by Alan Moore, we had never seen something like this. So, now that this book, this story, these characters are literally on the brink of hitting their 40th anniversary in 2026, it's really hard to think about or even be excited about the fact that we got this first chapter of this two-part animated film. And the reason why I say that is because when it comes to Watchmen, and you want to create a version of this story off of the pages of the graphic novel, you don't want to destroy the holy grail of comics. You don't want to make serious changes. You don't want to make the fan base mad, because this is truly a special story from a special time in comics history, and we have already gotten a live-action film, a digital comic book, and we even got a very short-lived HBO sequel show, which I personally was not a fan of. But I know there's a lot of people out there who liked the Watchmen show. But of course, we also got Zack Snyder's 2009 adaptation, which I personally am a big fan of. So it's really hard to be excited for an animated film that you know is not going to be anything different from what you've originally seen in other forms. Granted, there were some bold risks that Zack Snyder did take in his film version, especially with the climactic ending of the film, which I personally feel that it fits more than the original Alan Moore version, but we can have that debate another time. But I'm walking into this movie knowing that nothing is going to be any different, and even seeing the Tales of the Black Freighter story roped into this. I also really liked the way it was done in the ultimate Zack Snyder cut of the film, which is what I own, because there was a separate Tales of the Black Freighter 30-minute animated film that was officially blended into the live-action film, which didn't even have Tales of the Black Freighter in its original film adaptation on the screen, on the big screen. So, there's, like I said, I'm probably going all over the place, but I hope you really understand what I'm saying. Watchmen Chapter 1, there's nothing different than from what you've seen, except for the fact that you're seeing an animated version of the Watchmen graphic novel. I think that the animation is definitely very unique, with the very cel-drawn-like digital animation style. The characters are exactly what you expect them to be. There really aren't any major voices that really stand out for me. And it stops at a perfect point. It really pretty much stops at the very middle of the story, and we're going to get the rest of it in Chapter 2. But, I don't know. I mean, it is what it is. So if you know everything there is to know about Watchmen, you're knowing exactly what you're walking into when you see this animated film. And it sort of makes me wonder that this story has been given to us so many times. Why can't we see a different deconstruction of the superhero story, especially if it's from Alan Moore? Like, I would love to see an animated film or series of Miracle Man, because I think that that personally is better than Watchmen by Alan Moore when it comes to Alan Moore's work, in my personal opinion. I think Miracle Man is a phenomenal book. Even the parts that were taken over by Neil Gaiman. Or possibly Astro City. I mean, Kurt Busiek did a great job with that 6-issue miniseries, which then turned into an ongoing series of his. Or even going into some other pieces of Alan Moore's work, because there's other things outside of Watchmen when it comes to deconstructing the superhero. Alan Moore is responsible for a wonderful Superman story, Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow. It's a great concept, but it's kind of hard to be excited for it in the version of Watchmen, just because we've gotten so many off-the-pages versions of it. But I'm still going to say the following. If you are a very big Watchmen fan like myself, it's going to be very hard for you to say, I'm going to skip this. You're going to want to see it because you know this story, you love this story, and you want to see this story in animated form. So that's pretty much where I stand. It's still great because it's Watchmen. That's all. It's Watchmen, so you're not going to be disappointed. I'm really curious to see what's going to happen with Chapter 2, because are we going to go with Alan Moore's ending, or are we going to go with Zack Snyder's ending? Those are my thoughts on Watchmen Chapter 1, everybody. Please leave your comments in the box below. We can have a discussion, and I'll see you in the next one. If you enjoyed the video you just watched, feel free to leave a comment. Also, feel free to subscribe if you want to be up to date with our latest videos. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you in the next one. Actions speak louder than words.